Welcome to the Survival Handbook 2.0, a series that will take you through every aspect of ARK, from picking a map to play on, all the way up to mutations, tech, bosses, and everything in between. This is the second episode of many where we'll cover some early game topics like advanced crafting, traps, and creature taming. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the helpful tips and tricks coming from the rest of the series. And if you want to catch more ARK content, make sure to find me live at twitch.tv/TerrafireOfficial, where I stream every day. Today is a big day. Today, we're going to tame a Triceratops, one of the most powerful starter tames available. This is a difficult knockout tame if you don't know what you're doing. So, let's make sure you know what you're doing. Before we dive into that though, we need to make sure you know about a few concepts first, specifically the different ways to tame creatures. First, we've got knockout taming. Knockout taming is the most common type of taming, by which you'll increase a creature's torpor so much that they'll fall asleep. You can do so by utilizing a variety of torpor increasing weapons like the tranq arrow, tranq dart, and shocking tranq dart, to name just a few. After the creature is knocked out, they'll need to eat their preferred food to become yours. Triceratops are herbivores, so they eat berries and veggies, whereas a rex is a carnivore, so it will only eat meats. We'll get into a few more details when we tame our trike, but before that, we also have to talk about passive taming, because not all creatures can be tamed via the knockout method. Passive taming works similarly to knockout taming, except you won't have to knock your target creature out. Simply walk up to the creature, find out what food it wants, and put that food on your last hotbar slot. Press the interact button in front of the creature to feed it, and continue to do so until it's tamed. Both processes can take quite some time, so be patient. There are some special taming methods as well, like the Troodon requiring a dino sacrifice, and the Andrewsarchus requiring the completion of a minigame. But we won't get into those today. If you do encounter a creature that won't tame passively or via the knockout method, I strongly recommend heading to dotadex.com, where you can find pretty much every possible detail about taming a creature. So we know the absolute basic concepts of taming creatures. The trike we're taming is a knockout tame, so we'll need some supplies to tame it. I recommend getting to level 21 before you attempt this so you can use tranq arrows, but the absolute minimum level required to follow along today is level 12 so you can access wooden building pieces. You might be thinking, why do I need building pieces if I'm taming something? Well, the moment you try to knock out a trike is the moment it'll try to kill you. So we're going to trap the trike to make taming easier. Trapping wild creatures is the easiest and safest way to tame any creature regardless of its behavior type because of a concept called Torpor Fleeing, which I'll explain further during the trike taming process. So with some background knowledge out of the way, let's get started. First, we're going to need some narcotics. Craft a mortar and pestle and place it on a foundation. Foundation can be anywhere in the world or inside your base if you have one. Once the mortar and pestle is down, you'll need a bunch of spoiled meat and narco berries. A really handy tip for spoiling meat is to get some in your inventory and split them into individual pieces of meat, like so. I think console has to do this one by one, but I'm not sure. While you're waiting for those to turn into spoiled meat, start collecting some narco berries. Doing this by hand is totally fine for now, but we're going to talk about a much more efficient way to do this in a future episode. Anyway, put your narco berries and spoiled meat into the mortar and pestle and start crafting some narcotics. If you don't see the narcotics symbol, make sure you go to your engram menu and unlock it. We're looking to craft roughly 30 narcotics, but the more the better. By the way, this is about as advanced as crafting gets. Now that you know this, you'll be able to move all the way up to tech tier without learning any other type of crafting. Although there is one more that we'll cover in a later episode. Anyway, while those are crafting, let's start getting this trap together. First, you'll need to unlock wood foundations, wood door frames, and wood ramps. If you're a high enough level to make this trap out of stone, definitely do that because trikes can destroy wooden building pieces if they're given enough time. Anyway, you'll need 2 foundations, 12 door frames, and 2 ramps. Place your 2 foundations long ways, then place door frames 2 high all around it. Next, use your ramp as an entrance for the trike. The trike I want to tame is over there. So I'll put my ramps here so I don't have to lead the trike around the structure. It should look something like this when you're done. All we've got to do now is lead the trike into the trap, but before that, we need to cover a few final taming details, like exactly how many tranq darts we need, whether or not we'll need extra narcotics to keep it knocked out, and how much food the tame will need. Honestly, you can just guess for most of this, but I wouldn't be much of a teacher if I didn't explain everything I know, right? I mentioned Dotadex earlier in the video, which is not a sponsor by the way, but we're going to be using that to find some details about our tame. Just search for Triceratops and change the level to whatever trike you're about to tame. We're going to be taming a level 150 because that's the max you can get with official settings. Next, change the food type from kibble to mejoberry because we'll be using mejoberries. Below that panel, you can see it'll take an hour and 35 minutes to tame a level 150 with mejoberries. Additionally, it'll tame with a 73.8% 98% taming efficiency and get to level 205 as soon as it's tamed. I'll explain that in more detail in a bit, but we're also going to need 72 narcotics to keep it asleep while it tames. I didn't mention this before, but if your tame wakes up before the taming process has been completed, you lose all the progress you've already made. There's one last detail we need to find, and that's the amount of tranq arrows we need to bring. With a bow, if we're not hitting the head, we need to bring 28 arrows. Assume you'll miss a few shots, so bring a little over 30 arrows. Trikes have headshot resistances due to the armor there, so shooting tranq arrows into their heads would require 185 arrows to knock them out. That's just ridiculous, so we'll be shooting their body. Remember, these details apply to a level 150 trike, so if you're not taming a level 150, you won't have to bring as many supplies and the tame won't take as long. Anyway, now that we've got our 30 plus tranq arrows, our 72 extra narcotics to keep it knocked out, and our 213 mejo berries, let's start taming the trike. It is pretty straightforward, I'll be honest. First, make sure you're standing between your trap's entrance and the trike you want to tame. Then just shoot the trike anywhere to get its attention. It's going to be mad, so make sure you're ready to sprint back to your trap. From here, you've just got to run head first into the trap and jump all the way through. As long as the trike stayed aggro to you, it will fall into the trap. If it went anything like it went for me though, you'll just have to improvise. It goes to show that even the best plans can fail sometimes. While this trike was aggroing to the trap, I took the opportunity to shoot as many tranq arrows into it as I could. Eventually, it aggroed me again, and I was able to get it into the trap for an easy knockout, but things like this happen all the time in Ark, so be ready to improvise or die. Pro tip, if there are multiple trikes in the area, all of them will aggro onto you if you shoot one, so keep that in mind. You'll notice at a certain point that the trike will turn around and try to run away from you. This is called Torpor Fleeing and is the main reason to use a trap, other than the obvious fact that this is just much safer. Torpor Fleeing happens with almost every creature, like this Rex. I shot enough darts into it for it to just completely ignore me and run for its life. I recommend using a trap for pretty much every tame for this reason. Anyway, after enough tranq darts, the trike will fall asleep. Now we've got a bunch of bars and numbers on the screen, so let me explain, but before that, just walk up to the trike, open its inventory, and put your extra narcotics and berries in its inventory. The trike will eat the berries automatically when it's hungry, but you'll have to keep an eye on its torpidity to keep it sleeping. As time goes on, the unconscious meter will fall. If it reaches 0, the creature will wake up and you lose all taming progress, which is bad. Force feed it narcotics before that happens to keep it knocked out. If you don't have any narcotics, you can use narco berries, but they're far less efficient, so try to use narcotics. We've also got the taming meter, which shows us how far along the process is. As the trike eats berries, this bar will go up. But then we've also got the Taming Effectiveness stat, which shows us the effectiveness percentage and how many bonus levels the creature will get. Taming Effectiveness doesn't have any effect on how quickly the creature will be tamed, and Taming Effectiveness decreases whenever it eats food in its inventory or whenever it takes damage. This means that if we fed it a better food like kibble, its taming effectiveness would be higher and we'd get more bonus levels after the process is complete. I didn't want to get into kibble today though because it deserves its own updated video, but I do have an older one that still applies if you're interested. Taming effectiveness is a bit confusing at first, and unless you're using these creatures to fight bosses, run caves, or to PvP, it doesn't matter too much. Just make sure you don't let your tame take any damage while it's knocked out and you'll be fine for now. Keep taming effectiveness in mind for your later tames though. Also, if you open up your inventory and click this button, you can keep track of your tame's location, regardless of distance, and check their status from afar. This menu is a game changer for multitasking. Don't forget about it. Anyway, while this trike is taming, make a saddle for it. It's pretty cheap, only requiring hide, fiber, and wood. Once it's awake, give it a name, open its inventory, and put the saddle in its saddle slot. Hop on the trike and have a ball. This guy will protect you from a ton of creatures, but it's super slow, so don't get into too much trouble. It can also help you pick berries, carry stuff, and more, so make sure to utilize it whenever you can. Next time, we're going to talk about my favorite beginner and intermediate tames, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Don't forget to find me on Twitch, where I stream every day at twitch.tv/TerrafireOfficial. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!